So recently, Kelly Rowland was criticized for accepting an award on behalf of Chris Brown and trying to put respect on his name. And before I win, I want y'all to listen to it directly.
American Music Award goes to Chris Brown. Now, Chris Brown is not here tonight, so I'm accepting this award on his behalf. Excuse me, chill out. But I want to tell Chris, thank you so much for making great R&B music. And I want to tell him, thank you for being an incredible performer. I'll take this award, bring it to you. I love you. Congratulations. And congratulations to all the nominees in this category.
So Chris Brown has been pretty much canceled since his domestic violence dispute with Rihanna that happened years ago. And although he served time and did community service and has tried to move on, that legacy still stays with him. And this is why, in my opinion, Kelly Rowland did what she did, because she was able to look at a person who had a spotty past, who did bad things, who made mistakes, and try to do better. From my understanding, her husband actually helped work with Chris Brown and helped try to encourage him and get him back on his feet when he was on hard times. And so she's seeing the evolvement of Chris Brown. She's seeing that, hey, people can change. People can make mistakes when they're young and try to change their ways or do better. But what's interesting to me about this whole conversation around domestic violence is that women are usually not held to the same level of scrutiny, even though they're supposed to be equal. Chris Brown had legal ramifications, and rightfully so. But Rihanna will never be held under any scrutiny. She will always be seen as the victim, as the one that was taken advantage of, although the relationship was mutually abusive and they both put their hands on each other throughout the years. And this is why the relationship between Chris Brown and Rihanna years later is still so interesting, because it speaks to how society views domestic violence for men and women, even when both have a reported history of being physically violent. And let it also be stated that when men are physically violent and when women are physically violent, even though both are morally wrong, men generally have the propensity of doing more physical damage just because they're stronger. And of course, that's going to lead them to more legal ramifications. But both are equally as wrong. It's very clear that both Chris Brown and Rihanna were hurting each other. They were beating each other. They were doing it back and forth, which is actually very reflective of domestic violence in general. When you actually look at the different studies and reports about it, they find that by and large, domestic violence is bi-directional. And in most instances, women actually initiate violence. Do I think that it's right, or do I think that that gives men the right to beat women? Absolutely no way. Absolutely no way. But this whole conversation to me is so interesting, is that he is painted as this abuser, as someone who was just completely and totally reckless. There wasn't even an acknowledgement or any scrutiny of the times Rihanna was found to have been violent towards Chris. And my point is, in relationships, there are two people and there are two parties. And it's rare that there's a scenario where one person is 100% to blame and the other person has no part to play. One person is 100% the villain, and another person is 100% the victim. When you're talking about two adults coming together, there is no scenario where that exists. And I think it's unfair when we're talking about domestic violence for there to be no grace or no capability for a man to change, but there is almost little to no scrutiny put on the woman whatsoever. It is not okay as women to initiate violence. It is not okay if we get in our feelings, if we get upset as women, to hit men, to hurt men. And unfortunately, we do live in a culture where a woman can do that. If a guy cheats, she can hit him. If she doesn't like him, she can hit him. A woman can hit a guy and there's really no pass. But if a man protects himself, or if a man hits back because he's provoked, then there are all these ramifications, not only socially, but legally. And I just don't think that's fair. I don't believe that domestic violence in any situation is the answer. You resorting to violence, you resorting to putting up fists is never the answer. But I also believe as women that it should not be acceptable and it should not be okay for you to initiate violence, for us to feel like we have the right to do that, and then for there to be no public scrutiny or no public shaming or pushback or nothing. This man is going to be branded as an abuser his entire life. Rihanna, although she also put her hands on him, she will always be seen as a victim. And was she a victim in that scenario? Absolutely. But provoking a man is not okay. Provoking a man, hitting him first, slapping him first, kicking him first is not okay. And if that kind of behavior goes unchecked, then it usually can end up turning into something a lot more volatile. And I think Chris Brown and Rihanna's situation is a prime example of what can happen when people hit each other long term. Men who are perceived as abusers will carry that social stigma for the rest of their life, whether or not they are convicted. Whereas women, even if they are convicted, I think will have a little bit more compassion and grace for their side of things. And is that fair? Let me know what you think. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.